This video is brought to you by these YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Hello everyone and welcome to the top 10 Grimmjows on Bleach Brave Souls. Now we've had 10 for a little while now, but considering one of those was a frenzy character, I figured I'd wait for number 11. Now that he's here, we can finally get this list done. As always, keep in mind this is the internet and opinions will vary. With that said, let's begin. Now I won't lie, the first few in this list will be kinda short. They're much older characters and as such there's not much to say about them. And none is older than the original version of Grimmjow. Now don't get me wrong, this guy was amazing in his time. He was the character to have in PvP. Of course that was like 6 years ago at this point, and a lot has changed. While he does still have a really high attack stat, his normal attacks aren't exactly great. In fact, he's more of a strong attacking character these days, which is unfortunate because his SP isn't all that high. Still, he does have Frenzy and his strong attack 2 has a ridiculous 300% magnifier. This means that at close range this will do a ton of damage even by today's standards. Now he does have Havoc at 20, but he is an older character, so his strong attacks don't have great range. Now you can still use him here and there, but he does have a Captain Killer, so any use out of him now would most likely be in Kaimon, where everything is stacked in your favor. Aside from that, there wouldn't really be anything else he would excel at. Next up, we have the White Day version of Grimmjow. Now I've actually found myself using this guy recently, in Kaimon, which is probably the only place you'd actually end up using him, much like the previous Grimmjow. That's because while this Grimmjow's attack may be higher than his SP, he is still a strong attacking character. His SP is higher than the number 10 spot on this list, but it's still not impressive. Still, he does have Frenzy, and I feel like his strong attacks can be used to hit a few more enemies than the previous one. Much like the previous one, this one also has a Captain Killer. Honestly, the two aren't very good, but this one does have the better links. It's a strong attack damage link of 20% and a normal attack damage link of 16%. Something that's pretty good for a hybrid character if you wanted to go that route. Like I said, I do find myself using this one for specific floors in Kaimon, but at the end of the day, there are better options. He's just not a good character. Continuing the trend of not good Grimmjows is the Parasol version of Grimmjow. Now unlike the last two, this guy actually has a bit more redeeming qualities, since all of his attacks, including a strong attack 2, can inflict debilitating paralysis. And this is important because this is one of the very few characters who has a boost move strong attack 2 that can actually inflict a status ailment. Now like the previous two, he also doesn't have the best killer. His is an Espada killer, and like them, his attack stat is the better stat. Except in his case, it's actually the build you want to use, since he actually has a plus 60 bruiser after resurrection, as well as a normal attack damage link of 20%, increasing his overall normal attack damage by 80% by himself alone. Not to mention that boost move strong attack 2, which has enhancer, increasing his overall attack defense and focus by 33%. This Grimmjow also has long reach at 20%, letting him reach further with his normal attack, and after resurrection he's got a damage reduction soul trait of 12%, allowing him to withstand more damage. Honestly, if it wasn't for that killer, he'd actually be a pretty respectable character. His stats are still on the low end, but that can easily be fixed. Either way, you can definitely find more uses for this guy than the other two. Alright, from here they start to get slightly more usable. Next up, we have the Mind version of Grimmjow. Now this guy's in a very interesting position. I feel like from when he first came out, he was just destined to be a linked character, since he was a frenzy character who didn't have that high of an SP, and who had a damage reduction soul trait of 20%, which was very odd for a high SP character. Now since then, he's been resurrected, and his SP is much better. In addition to that, he's also got a plus 20 berserker now, so his strong attacks deal more damage. The weird thing is that for his second link, they gave him a normal attack damage link of 16%. He's only got a plus 20 bruiser, and his attack isn't that impressive to begin with, meaning that when they resurrected him, they really just meant for him to be a link. But honestly, he works well as a standalone character. He may not have the best range on his strong attacks and could have definitely benefited from Havoc, but it's not terrible range. And to top things off, they also gave him weakened defense as an ability, so he's able to deal more damage after he uses the special. He is still better served as a link, I think, but with a decent killer, not terrible range, a high SP, frenzy, and berserker at 20, he's honestly still a usable character, just kind of slow. Now number 6 is the Beyond Resurrection version of Grimmjow. Now you're gonna hear a lot of things on this character, as a lot of people have strong feelings about him. But here's the bottom line, he is a good character. A lot of people have complaints and some are valid, but he's still a good character. He's got a really high SP as well as Frenzy, and a strong attack damage link. He can also inflict debilitating laceration on all of his attacks, and his strong attack 3 is a charge move that doubles in strength when fully charged. Now one thing this character doesn't have, and it's one of the main reasons I think people complain about him, is that he doesn't have Havoc. His strong attacks don't have terrible range, don't get me wrong, but for a Beyond Resurrection character, the range could definitely be better, especially since with that charge move, he has no full screen attacks except for his special. His strong attack 2 has decent enough range and hits anything in front of him, and his strong attack 1 knocks enemies back and hits a large number of times, greatly increasing the chance of inflicting laceration. But I do think this is another thing that people don't like about him, his strong attack 1. For whatever reason, people don't seem to like this kind of strong attack. Yes, it is slower and it doesn't inflict as much damage as some other strong attacks, but it's got its own purpose, and that's inflicting a status element and knocking enemies back. And in some cases that's preferable. Finally, this Grimmjow is also completely immune to being burnt, which I would honestly replace this for Havoc, but I'm sure he'll get that when he gets resurrected in a few years.
退屈だぜ。てめえは楽しませてくれるんだろうな。
Next up we have the Spirit Society version of Grimmjow. Now I really like this character, but I didn't always start off liking this character. To be honest, when he first came out, I really didn't like him all that much, but he grew on me. Now it was kind of like a Stockholm Syndrome thing, because I didn't really have much of a choice but to use him at the time, but hey, whatever works. Now this Grimmjow has a really high SP and Frenzy. He's also got a strong attack damage link of 20%, and all of his attacks have a chance to inflict debilitating weakening, and they're very solid attacks. In my opinion, he's actually got one of the most fun builds. It's kind of basic, but it works. He's got a full screen strong attack 3, a lunge move strong attack 1, and a hybrid vortex move strong attack 2 that hits more than the average number of times. It's not by a crazy amount, but it does increase the likelihood of inflicting weakening. Not to mention it gathers enemies in one spot for when you have to use your normal attack, which you will likely have to do because he doesn't have a strong attack recharge ability. Luckily he does have long reach, so his normal attacks will reach a little further, but with only a 20% bruiser and not that high of an attack stat, you're not really going to get that much damage out of them. Unless of course they're weakened, which again is likely because of that strong attack too. Overall, he's a very solid character. He does have a no affiliation killer, and that means it's slightly less likely you're going to use him, but at this point that's becoming more and more common of an enemy, so I really should start taking that part out of these top 10s.
見せ物じゃねえぞ。てめえも潰されてえのか。
Next up we have the Halloween version of Grimmjow. Now I honestly constantly forget this guy exists. I think I do have him, but the very fact that I have to say I think says a lot. This banner was really forgettable in my opinion, which kinda sucks because it's like the last Halloween banner we had. Still, despite that, he is a pretty good character. He's got a really high SP as well as Frenzy and Berserker at 20%. He's also got a boosted 14% strong attack recharge link, and all of his attacks have a chance to inflict debilitating poison, which is kind of an odd thing for Grimmjow, but we have a Rukia that can inflict burn, and an Izuru that shoots people, so, you know, why not? This Grimmjow has a pretty average kit. He's got a full screen strong attack 3, a strong attack 2 with decent range, and a lunge move strong attack 1. Now truth be told, I do prefer Spirit Society Grimmjow strong attack 2 to this one, if only because it hits a higher number of times and it has a higher chance of inflicting weakening. That said, this one has a strong attack recharge link and Berserker, so overall you can deal more damage and spam strong attacks quicker. So yeah, this character is good, there are just better alternatives to him, which is why you probably don't see him running around too often.
強えのはどっちだって聞いてんだよ。やっぱこっちじゃねえか。
Okay, so these final 3 are on a whole other level of good. If you have any of these 3 characters, count yourself lucky. Let's start with the Fierce Battle version of Grimmjow. This Grimmjow has a really high SP as well as Frenzy and Berserker at 40%. In addition to that, he's got an ability that increases the amount of damage strong attacks from Tech or Ankars deal by 20%, essentially making this a plus 60 Berserker. But wait, because there's more, because if his health is full, all damage from this character increases by 25%. What this means is that if you're using him and he's at full health, his strong attacks deal 85% more damage before Frenzy, which is absolutely insane, and it makes him one of the hardest hitting strong attackers in the entire game. This also affects his normal attack, increasing that bruiser of 40% all the way to 65 if his health is full. They also had the foresight of giving this Grimmjow a strong attack recharge ability, meaning that despite not having that link, you can still spam these strong attacks. And even if you do get hurt, you still have a 60% increase on your strong attacks before Frenzy. To top everything off, his special has a 60% devastation, boosted all the way to 85 if his health is full. Honestly, He's probably the fastest character on this list, and I was very tempted to put him at number 1, as was the case with the last 3 characters on this list. The only reason I didn't is because I felt the other 2 were more useful in a variety of situations, because when it comes to just PvE alone, he definitely is the best.
てめえが何だろうと構わねえ。俺の前に立ち塞がるなら食い殺すまでだ。
Next up is the Campfire Your Own World version of Grimmjow. Now this Grimmjow has a really high attack. He's also got Bruiser at 40%, as well as Flurry and Poise. In addition to that, he's also got Berserker at 50%, so while his SP may not be that high, his strong attacks can still deal damage. Now this Grimmjow has 2 very useful abilities, especially when combined, and that's Guard Break and hit hidden enemies. What this means is that he's basically unstoppable. Enemies can't guard from him, and they can't hide from him. The only real way they can actually stop from getting hit by him is if they're completely immune from melee damage, or if they're one of the newer dodge enemies. If neither of those apply, they are going to get hit. Now while strong attacks are usually the way to go when it comes to dealing damage fast, the fact that he can't be stopped makes him one of the faster characters in the game, especially when autoing, which he more than excels at thanks to that poise and the damage reduction soul trait of 20%. Now this can be stacked up to 80%, meaning that you can have a character that deals a ton of damage that only takes 20% of the damage he's supposed to. This would basically make him a PvP only character, which he definitely excels at, except they also gave him a soul reaper killer, the best killer in the game, meaning he can now excel in both PvE and PvP. The previous Grimmjow was faster just because his strong attacks had more range and he can spam them, but the fact that you can use this guy in more areas makes him a bit more useful to have, which is why I placed him a little bit higher.
デスガロ食らいやがれ。
Now finally at number 1, we have the new arena version of Grimmjow. Now let me get this out of the way, I don't like the fact that they're doing individual arena summons. I miss my 3 character banner summons, and honestly, as long as these characters are premium characters, I don't intend on summoning. That said, even though he is classified as an arena character, he's still a very good character outside of it. He's got a really high SP as well as Frenzy, and a strong attack damage link of 20%, plus Berserker at 40%, increasing his overall damage with his strong attacks by 60% before Frenzy. He's also got Bruiser at 40% and Devastation at 60%. Now, when it comes to the character's actual speed in finishing an event and the amount of damage they can deal, the Fierce Battle version of Grimmjow is actually better, since that one can also deal 60% more damage with his strong attacks, and it bumps up to 85 if he's at full health. Not to mention the boost on his normal attack and his special. Plus, they both have a strong attack recharge ability, so they can both spam their strong attacks. However, I'm trying to take all the aspects of the game into effect, and that's where these lists get really tricky. While the other one is better for PvE, this one has a bit more going for him. He's got an extra sprinter, letting him dodge specials easier, which is very helpful in Kaimon or just to clear areas faster. He's also got Havoc at 20, pushing his strong attack 3 to just beyond full screen, and increasing the range of his strong attack 2 Beam Shot. While the other Grimmjow strong attack 1 is better, this one does hit a much wider range. This Grimmjow also has poise, meaning his strong attacks cannot be interrupted. In addition to that, he's also completely immune from being weakened, and he's got a Soul Reaper killer. Then we have the actual arena abilities. This Grimmjow gets the ability Long Stride, which pairs really well with his +2 sprinter, and because his original soul trait is strong attack damage, he gets the strong attack recharge ability for an arena soul trait. And don't forget, he also has a 12% strong attack recharge ability as well. This means that by himself, he actually has a 19% strong attack recharge ability when in the arena mode, and that's by himself, not to mention everything that can be stacked. And then of course there's that extra use of the soul bomb. So yeah, this guy's decked out, and it was hard not to put him at number 1 for that reason. While I personally prefer the other 2, you can't deny just how good this Grimmjow is. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.